G'day, hello everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics Game Day Squad live show, previewing round 14 of the AFL season. And it's an exciting show because we're going to be going through something brand new on the Game Day Squad platform, but also previewing the upcoming round. But I'm your host, Bales, and you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials. And joining me, as always, is my co-host, and fellow Game Day Squad fanatic, changing up there. It is Tom from Game Day Squad. Tom, mate, how are you?
Good, mate. Very well, thank you. Ready to rip in. It was a little funny intro. You were caught between g'day and hello, everyone, there at the start. And like a lot of the decisions that I had to make this round, I'm stuck in between a rock and a hard place for some of them. I know we're going to go through the squads later, go through, some of our starts, sits, etc. But I did have a difficult time with some line groups, which I'll get into a little later. But nonetheless, this is where we need to get some clarity. This is where we need to talk through things and get ready for a ripping round with a brand new comp in Contender. So we'll talk a little later, I guess, what that's about and how you can manage that. But Bales, let's get right into this, mate.
Yeah, exactly. I'm surprised I was going to say g'day because I always say hello, everyone, but it was g'day and then started, and I'm like, oh, no, that's not the one. So, but it's all good. We're underway. And yes, the Contender new format has started as well on Game as well, which we'll touch on that a lot more. But don't forget, use the code BAILSDT at sign up and get yourself 3 of the non-player coin packs, absolutely free, value at $21. Yep. And also all those players will help you in the new Contender Series, which starts this week. So you can start from winning the seasonal prize or weekly prizes from this week. And it is very good for new users because all the established users that play Champion and Challenger, which are the top sort of 2 ones there, can't actually play that along with Contender. So Contender is purely for either the new users and then the users that I guess don't have as many of those higher end cards, which we'll chat about later on in the show. But yeah, make sure you do sign up at GameDaySquad.com.au and use the code BAILSDT at sign up. But let's get to the games because we've got another 7 games this week, so still on the buys. So Collingwood, Richmond, Gold Coast, and Sydney are all on the buy. So any of those players in your Game Day squads, don't put any of in. So no Dacos, no Roberts, no Noah Andersons, no Tarantos, none of them. Keep them out of your squads this week. And make sure you pick from the other teams. So let's go to Thursday night. So tomorrow night, so just over 24 hours away from this game. So St Kilda and the Western Bulldogs, the teams are out for this one. So Jack McRae and Liam Stocker come into the side. Matthias Filippo, who we know has got that calf injury. I think it's a plantaris muscle in the leg. So he's injured that. So he'll be out for a little bit, which is unfortunate because he's been someone that people in Game Day Squad dynasty assets that have been looking at him and going, yep, he's a really good asset. But unfortunately, he'll be missing some more time. And Hugh Boxall has been dropped, which will affect a few people in other formats. And then for the Western Bulldogs, Sam Darcy is back. Good to see him back after we all thought he might have been done for the year, but back sooner rather than later, which is a very good sign. And Cooper Hines is back into the side. Ryan Gardner's been dropped, and James Harnes is out with concussion. So a couple of changes there. But as always, we chat about who we're keen or not so keen on this game. And if you just new to the show, me and Tom give one player each game, and we'll say if we're keen on, not so keen on. So, Tom, we'll start off the first game. Who are you keen or not so keen on from this one?
Look, let me sway quickly. I really want to touch on Sam Darcy. I was massive on him before he got injured. Just want to quickly run through some numbers. I don't think it's something I'm going to rush into because he's coming back off injury and I'm always a little cautious with that. So not to say I'm starting him, but in the 5 proper games, he got injured in 1. Let's not count that. It was very early on. Didn't really have a full crack at it. In the 5 proper games he played, 3 of them he tonned up. 1 of them he had 93. So as a forward, which this year it's actually been pretty difficult to pick some good forwards, he's a weapon of a prospect. And look, maybe not this round, but very soon, he's going to come back into the conversation for me. But someone that I am keen on from this game is a Western Bulldogs defender in Bailey Dale. He's taking the bulk of the kick-ins. If you just have a look at some of the numbers, 7 kick-ins last round, 7 play-ons. He just does that brilliantly. He leads the team by far. There's no one that's going to contend him in that. And he's just in some really ripping form. I do see this game at Marvel. He plays well there. He's going to have the bulk of opportunity to score well again. In his past, let's call this 5 games, he's had over 20 kicks 4 times. And in Game Day Squad, with the juicy 4 points per kick, for me, that's 100 points. So, you just got to, not 100 points, sorry. Maths is off there. But anyway, you get the point.
80 points.
Exactly. It's a really good floor to start on. And he's just see him doing much of the same again, mate. So he's my start for this one, Bales. What about yourself?
Yep, I like it. I like it a lot. Who am I going to go? There's a couple of guys I'm because normally last few weeks, actually, and you know this as well, that the first couple of games of the round, we haven't actually had many players in. It's normally been back-ended in the round, but this round it starts off with a bang. I think there's a couple of relevant games to start off, and this is no different. Currently in my contender side, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players currently at the moment in my squads. But the player that I'm keen on, and we've got to give props to him. We've talked about a little bit here on our preview shows, but I think that people are now starting to go, yeah, this guy's been, how good has he been this year? Matt Kennedy has just absolutely taken to this Dogs team like a duck to water. It's just, he's been absolutely incredible, averaging 120.9 Game Day Squad points. I believe that is the second highest averaging forward behind Baz, who's averaging just a quite 146.3 points in Game Day Squad. But Matt Kennedy, just absolutely killing it. But it's been particularly the last few weeks. So he's turned up in every game in Game Day Squad this year, other than round 2, where he scored 81 points. Every other game has been not only over 100, but since round 3, he's gone over 110 in every game, which is fantastic. His floor is there. Yeah. His last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games, he's gone over 125 points in each game, which is absolutely incredible. His ceiling and floor is there. Just getting it done. And I think that people are like, other formats I didn't start in my team, and I regret not doing it. But Game Day Squad, you better believe pretty much after the first few weeks, I've been on board with Matt Kennedy. And he's been one of the rarer commodities in Game Day Squad, particularly his bronze card, because it hasn't been packed as many times. But he is someone I'm keen to roll out, probably for the remainder of the year, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think he's pretty much a lock every week. And I know on your Thursday shows you do with Cal, and obviously I've been on a couple of times, you have your locks. I think Kenny's safe to say. I think he's going to be put in that lock category probably for the remainder of the season. So I'm really keen on him in this game along with the rest of the season. Moving over to the Hawthorn and Adelaide game. Oh, this is going to be a good game. I think a couple of good games to start the round, but this one's a humdinger, as some people like to say. No teams, obviously, for the remainder of the games because they haven't come out just yet. But who are you keen on or not so keen on in this game?
Yeah, interesting game. I know you're going to have some eyes on this one. Two very, very good teams going head-to-head. I'm going to go not so keen on, and I'm going to go with Mr. Moore in the forward line. Dylan Moore just really hasn't had sort of the year we would have expected. He was good last week, but in all honesty, if I told you in his past, 6 games, how many times he's turned up, it's only twice. And we've also seen a score of 47 in there. And for someone who we came in thinking he could be top forward for the year, a little disappointing. I guess the only reason that I'm even more on the fence is that your Crows are going to be a really tough matchup for him. You guys are very good at sort of nullifying fantasy points for those sort of players, those mid forwards or those med forwards type roles. I just think it's going to be a game where he's not going to have too much upside. He's still a great player, don't get me wrong, but I'm looking for a little more, and I'm trying to get forwards who are going to ton up. I don't think that's going to be him for this round. So for those reasons, I'm going to be fading Dylan Moore. And
I don't know if you realised the pun you just did there, but you said you're looking for more, which I thought was quite funny, and you're talking about Dylan Moore. So
didn't realise.
So didn't even realise. He didn't even realise his good work. There you go. Player, I'm actually don't have, again, many players from this game. I'm going to go, I'm going to say not so keen on, but with a slight asterisk on it because he might play more midfield time this year. But Isaac Rankin is someone that I'm slightly concerned about moving forward. I think there are some good matchups for some forwards this week, which is why he's currently not in my squad at the moment. But just with the downturn into midfield usage is a slight concern. I think there are some excuses for some of these lower scores he's put out on the table. Like he was poor. It wasn't great against Sydney. That was a pretty dewy game. And I think after halftime, him and Dawson that didn't really have to try too hard. Some of those other guys were the ones that picked up the sort of the slack a bit in the second half. Then you look at the showdown. That's obviously a pretty low-scoring fantasy game as it is, let alone a showdown. And then you had last week against Brisbane, which tough team, but also in the wet. I think Hawthorn's another difficult matchup. So that's the only reason I'm probably fading him this week. But he is someone that if there's maybe Baz Smith is out, because he's obviously currently in our squads at the moment. If he's out, maybe Rankin comes in his place because he's probably just outside my top 7 this week. But yeah, just for me, I'm just slightly concerned. But with Peatling suspended, there might be a little bit of an uptick in midfield usage this week. So maybe I do start him depending on what they do with the team. Moving over to the Saturday games, we'll start off with the first one, which is Brisbane and GWS at the Gabba. Who are you keen on or not so keen on from this game, Tom?
Yeah, I did struggle a little bit here. I'm still on the fence for this player, but I'm going to make the case. I'm going to make the case for Tom Green to get in your squad. I know Brisbane Lions are one of the tougher matchups in the entire league for midfielders, but I think GWS are the only team that's tougher. So it's honestly going to be two teams that are very good at nullifying midfielders and fantasy production. But for the year so far, I think Tom Green is just sort of coming into form at the right time. We have seen him go around that 100 mark, which is a little scary, and he can fluctuate in terms of points, but he's coming off a 129 and a 125 point performance in what I guess could be considered some tougher matchups, because last week the Giants had Port, and then the week before that the Giants, they had the Tigers, which is a great matchup. So disregard that. But it's still, Tom Green's doing the right things. He was a little dependent on goal kicking earlier this year in order to sort of have the bigger scores. But in the past 2, he's only kicked 1 goal and he's cracked the 125 time twice. So I still think he's going to have some really good upside in this game. It is a tougher matchup, but it's tough on both sides and someone's got to step up, and Tom Green just might be the guy to do that. So,
yeah, don't mind that shout. But the guy that I'm not keen on, and I'm off until I see something, and the guy that might go to Tom Green or Finn Callaghan, because I'm assuming Finn's back this week, so might go to one of the two, is Josh Dunkley. Yeah. New users that have just signed up are probably looking at his average and going 117.9. He's in the top sort of 4, 5, 6, 7 mids and go, oh yeah, he's a good option. Like Giants, he might be able to at the Gabba, might play all right. And you look at the start of the year and you go, yep, he was good. 155, 128, 134, 127, 108, 112, 124, 125, 125. From round 10 onwards, he's gone 106, 105, 91, and 93. Just not getting it done. And I know that they're not awful scores, but when we've got midfielders that can pump out 120s, 130s, 140s, and then have got also good matchups on top of that, you want those guys. You don't want the guys that are struggling. Dunkley is clearly struggling at the moment in terms of, again, playing his role, playing well for Brisbane, but in fantasy terms, he's not getting it done. Will Ashcroft is taking a real step up this year, obviously back from injury. Hugh McCluggage is having an outstanding year and, in my opinion, should be in the All-Australian team, and he's taking a lot more of those points. And Lockie New is always going to get his touches, whether that's fantasy-related or not, which means that not all 4 are going to be able to get 20, 25, 30 touches a week, and Dunkley at the moment is the one that's losing out. He may have some good scores back half of the year, but at the moment, I'm slightly concerned with his ability to hit 110, 120 plus on any given week. And for that reason, I'm fading him this week, and at least for the short term, hopefully he can turn it around. Moving over to Essendon and Geelong at the MCG, the twilight game on the Saturday. Who are you keen on or not so keen on from this one?
Essendon, Geelong. Without naming the obvious, let's go with someone else. Let's go with, I'm going to go Zachy Merritt. I'm actually banking on a bit of a bounce back from him. Very similar maybe to Dunkley. The past couple of rounds just haven't been it. He's coming off 88 and 112 fantasy points. Look, he had 170 before that, which is amazing. But the round before that was 64. So, that sort of 4-game stretch, we have one outlier performance that was amazing, but the other games aren't so great. He's got some reinforcements back in that midfield. Caldwell's come back and he's playing some of his better footy for the season again. Parrish has come back as well, sort of running in there. But I just think in a game that's where Geelong are just going to back in their structure, and I hope he's not going to get any attention. I think he's going to shine. They're just going to outclass them. But in the midfield, I think he's going to get a really good chance to score well. So I guess I'm pointing this out because I think a lot of other coaches are going to think the opposite. They're going to think, let's fade Merritt, very similar to sort of the points you just made then about Dunkley. Bales, I guess the difference is Merritt has shown that he can explode in terms of points recently. I'm just hoping this round is one of the ones where he can turn it around and get back on the right track.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to disagree with that because he was actually going to be the player I was going to say I'm not so keen on because his role has been completely flipped around week on week and playing half back. And the guy I'm keen on in this game and has been a massive beneficiary of that is Jai Caldwell. He's someone that I think is a real sneaky play that not a lot of people have clicked onto yet. But the way he's performing, he's like a top 5 midfielder at the moment. And that in GameDay Squad is a lock at the moment because you've got 6 slots, bye weeks, and the fact that he's in those top handful, I think is a good shout. So he started off the year with a 170, 109, 111. Then was injured, came back with an 83 and 69 from low game time. But when he gets over 75% game time, and I think 50% CVAs or something like that, he's got a seen him at average, and it's among the top sort of 4 or 5. Since he's come back, he's gone 129, 148, and 130. And up against Geelong, where Geelong will target a Zach Merritt, I don't think they're going to go to a Jai Caldwell. We know that Geelong is a decent matchup for mids, particularly when they don't get tagged. So I think Jai Caldwell's in for another big game. MCG, he was pretty good last week against Carlton. Slowed down the second half, but that looked like an absolutely monster score. I actually did a late swap on the Sunday afternoon thinking I thought that Merritt would get tagged by Chincotta, and I ended up going to Jai Caldwell, which ended up being a pretty good decision. So I'm very, very happy with that. Just sucks I had John Noble in, so it didn't really matter with that. So I pretty much broke even for the week. So, but yeah, Jai Caldwell, I'm really keen on. Moving over to the Saturday night game, which is North Melbourne and Fremantle. Who are you keen on or not keen on here?
I'm going to go not keen on. Being a little negative today, I don't like that. Actually, let's go keen on. I don't like being negative. I like to talk positively about players. I'm back on Caleb Daniel, Bales. I'm back on him.
I agree. I'm with as well.
I think we were a little hesitant to start him because of the movement of Harry Sheezel. Harry Sheezel came back into that defense for a couple of rounds, and it really impacted Caleb Daniel the most out of those Kanga forwards. But even still, he was able to battle through. Like, he did have a 69-point performance, but he had 94, 93, and 92, sort of around that. But since then, he's gone 116, 120. He is sharing some of the kick-in load, which I do think is a little interesting because he was sort of taking the bulk at the start of the year. We have seen a couple of players sort of come through there at times and take some kick-ins off him, like what McKercher had 6 last round. But Caleb Daniel, irrespective, had 9. So he's still the leading and the bulk kicking target for North. He's got a really fantasy-friendly role. That sort of halfback role is just absolute magic. And as a forward in the game, my confidence is back with Caleb Daniel. It's time to get him back in the squad, start rolling him out with a little more confidence. And yeah, but it's good because I needed it. I needed some forwards to step up.
Yeah, I agree. I've got Caleb Daniel in my squad, which we'll touch on after. Just the Smoky as well, just want to add to your conversation with the North discussion. Obviously, with Sheezer moving more into that mid-forward role, Colby McKercher went back into defence last week, scored a 113, had 20 kicks as well. Only had the 1 mark, but I anticipate those to take a bit of an uptick. So maybe he gets a couple less touches, but I think his marks will be around that 5 or 6 range. Could just be a sneaky pod that not many people are probably looking at the moment that might be able to pop up a good score. Freo, I think he'll go okay with this week. But the player I am keen on here, and I've been really impressed with his last few weeks, particularly in the game against Gold Coast before the bye. This from Freo, Luke Jackson, the unicorn, as I like to call him. Scored 131 against the toughest matchup for rucks going around. First ruck this year to ton up against Gold Coast. But if you look at it, Gold Coast have been the best matchup over the last 5 weeks for midfielders, and they've been the hardest matchup for rucks all season, right? You look at that and go, well, Jackson, why did he score well? Jackson was playing as the number 1 ruck, and then when Darcy came on the ground, he was playing as a midfielder, CBA midfielder, which I thought was amazing. That role sticks. I think he's almost, if he's going to continue with that role, I think he's a lock every week. I think that his ceiling is there. The floor is there because he gets that sort of those 20 hit outs a game roughly if he's playing that sort of role. And scored 131 against Gold Coast. So I'm a big fan of Luke Jackson. And I think he's a guy that I'm going to be playing in my squad a lot of times throughout the remainder of the season. So I do like him from this game. Moving over to the final couple of games here on the Sunday, and we'll go to Port Adelaide and Melbourne at Adelaide Oval. Who are you keen on or not so keen on here?
I'm going to break a golden rule, Bales. I'm going to do it. Guess who's back? Jason Francis.
Yeah.
I said before in this exact same show, so I'm the biggest hypocrite of all time. Don't rush back with getting people who are injured back into your lineup. But I'm going to make an exception. I'm going to make just one. I think Jason Horne-Francis is honestly going to be someone you're going to want to get in. If you look at midfielders for the entire season, Melbourne are a really positive matchup. And if Jason Horne-Francis, he is going to roll through the forward line. I don't predict him to be straight back into taking bulk time in the midfield. I do see him resting up there. But even still, he has shown he can be an effective forward. He's shown that he can score there. And I think they're going to get the ball quite often in there. So I think it's a really good matchup for him. Don't know who's going to go on him when he's in the forward line as well. I think he can really punish Melbourne in a lot of aspects of his game with his physicality, his class, and all of that. So, yeah, breaking the golden rule, Bales. But Jason Horne-Francis is coming straight in for me, mate. I'm keen. Let's get him in. Start.
Yeah, I'm slightly nervous. I'm probably more on the where you were going with, but I'm nervous with the first week back. I probably want to see what that role looks like because Bergman is doing roles in there now. He probably goes to a Cozzy Pickett or a Chris Petrarca this week. I want to see how the midfield rotation works. I think Horne-Francis will get back to being a lot more midfield, but first week back, I do want to see it. But I don't mind if you want to take just go early and take that risk on. We know that he's got a ceiling as good as anyone in the forward line. Player I'm keen on. I'm keen on him most weeks, but I've got my lock of the week that I don't want to chat about until later on. So I'm going to Connor Rozee here. He's been such a consistent player. I know Cal is very, very happy with the way that the Port skipper's playing this year. So he had that score of 91 in round. What round was that? That was in round 3. That was his only score below a ton this year. But his scores over the last 4 weeks, Tom, I don't know if you've seen this, 150, 133, 123, 139. And then he scored a 107 in round 8. And then before that, 133, 128, 149. He's been so good this year, consistently hitting over 120. And people probably been going, oh, well, I don't want to play him because he's playing in defense. But I think that's a better role for him. He gets the kick-ins. He isn't the number one tag guy because I think Butters will be that. I'm slightly nervous about Butters this week because everyone that watched that King's birthday game saw Ed Langdon tag Nick Dacos within an inch of his life. And that all-star Dacos in my classic squad wasn't great. He did still get to the ton in terms of the rarity.
He had a pretty good game. But he saved it. I know
he saved it, which I'll take. But so Butters maybe gets a Viney tag. If Viney's back, or does he get a Langdon tag? I'm not sure. But Rozee, I think, will be fine. The only concern slightly is, does Sparrow play a defensive forward role on Rozee? That would be the only thing. But I think Rozee's shown, even when Jordan tried to stop him, Rozee just gets those handball receives. He's so quick, so agile to get past the tag. He takes the kick-ins. I think he'll be fine. And I like this matchup for him against Melbourne. Moving over to the final game, which is West Coast and Carlton. Who are you keen on or not so keen on here?
My lock of the rounds in this game, so I'm not going to say him. I'm going to say another player, that other player being George Hewitt. Really good matchup. Points this year, especially to start the year, his run, he was on like the dream run. I'll just read out some numbers here for you, Bales, but this is from George Hewitt, by the way. 139, 130, 132, 140, 143, 130, all in back-to-back weeks. Now, since that point, it's actually been a little sketchy. It's been a big dip. We've seen a decreased performance from him, but last round he sort of got back to his best, and it's going to be a game. He does love a handball. He can maybe overcommit to the handball at times, but it is a way that and a weakness that the West Coast Eagles have. I do see him being one of the primary users in the midfield because his sort of play style just perfectly is going to fit into the holes that West Coast have in that midfield. He's going to be explosive. He's going to be leaking out. He's going to be starting a lot of breaks from the center bounce. And I think that he's in for another great performance. He's coming off 141, which is his best performance in, 6 rounds now. So it is a little scary, but I'm going to look through that. I know the potential he has. It's such a positive matchup, and I think Hewitt is a great start in your midfield.
Yep, I don't mind that. I was actually going to touch on who I believe will be your lock of the round, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't seen your squad, but I'm assuming it's this player because I've also gone in my squad. So I'm not going to touch on him. I'm going to touch on another Carlton mid that I'm pretty keen on. It's not another Carlton mid, is it? That your lock of the round, just to make double sure.
No. Yeah, go.
Okay, good. Okay, good. All right. So Sam Walsh is who I'm pretty keen on in this game. So looked a lot better on the weekend against the Bombers. Scored a 121. But the big thing for me was his role. His CBAs were back to where they really should be, right? Because Sam Walsh is too good a player to have been underutilized what he was in the first half of the year. So he'd been consistently the fourth mid behind Cripps, Hewitt, and Chera, which, again, those three players are very, very good in their own right? But Sam Walsh was the number 4, and he was being underutilized, in my opinion. I think he needs to be a top 2 guy, and he was back to that. So Cripps had 20 CBAs, Walsh had 19. He was one behind. Chera had 18, Hewitt had 15, and then Jack Williams had 3, right? And I think Jack Williams had those CBAs, I believe, when Chera was having his HIA, which on another discussion took way too long to do that HIA, but that was a few days ago, so we'll move past that. But I think Walsh, if he's back in this role, tight midfield mix at Carlton, if they're going to be doing this, Walsh is going to be back to scoring those consistent 110, 120 plus scores. And I think a few ceiling scores, which he hasn't really done this year. He had that 2-week patch earlier in the season where he went 155, 148 in back-to-back weeks. And everyone was thinking, oh, here we go, Walsh is back.
Oh, yes.
After that point, he hadn't gone over 110. He'd gone 93, 108, 88, 93, 94, 102. But then the 121 was back on the weekend. I think we can see more scores of this. West Coast, great matchup. I've got him in my squad this week. But that'll do us here as well for the game. So we'll go through our locks of the week and fades of the week, and then we'll go into our squad. So if you guys do have a couple of questions, we can answer a couple here. Targeting just game day squad questions. Any AFL Fantasy questions we can answer on Friday. Or if you want to head over to our Patreon, then make sure you head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. You can answer those there. But just not, we'll stick to our game day squad questions. But let's go fade of the week to start off, because I went off with a bang into locks of the week, then into our squad. So who is your fade of the week for round 14?
Okay, controversial. I'm going Lockie Whitfield. I don't have him in my squad currently.
Ooh.
I've just seen a bit of a flip in a role, just a flip in usage in terms of, I think Lockie Ash is the man there. You just look at his past couple of rounds. He's sort of taken that real juicy, getting those 20 kicks each week, just taking the bulk possession. And I think I'm making a big call by doing this. Don't get me wrong, because Whitfield averages 128 over the season. So wanted to make this one juicy. But look, the past couple of games we've seen 100, 135, 91, 110, which in all honesty, for most other players is a ripping stretch. Don't get me wrong. But for Lockie Whitfield, it's definitely big unders. And I just don't know if he's sort of trending in the right direction. I haven't seen him get over 20 kicks since round 7, which last season used to be nearly every single round, along the likes of Errol Goulden. Where on the flip side, Lockie Ash is doing exactly that. In his past 4 rounds, back-to-back weeks, he's had over 20-plus kicks. So there's just been a little bit of a shift. I know the role has changed sometimes for Lockie Whitfield, but I'm going to make a big call, go against the grain, and I'm going to fade him this round in particular and start other defenders.
Yeah, right. Well, I've got Whitfield in my squad, which we'll get to shortly. So I don't know how I feel about that one. I don't want that to be true, but I guess we'll have to find out, because the role has definitely changed, and we'll see if it continues that or it does change. My fade of the week, I'm actually going to a guy that you were keen on here. My fade of the week is Zach Merritt. I'm not wanting any part of him at the moment.
You've done it straight back to me. Oh,
it's just like we're throwing punches. You just gone Whitfield, and I've gone back with Merritt. So no, but I don't love the Geelong matchup. His role is changing every week. I don't want players that can play all different roles. Brad Scott even came out and said that he's doing that week in, week out. He's going to go wherever they need him. So he's not locked into this midfield role where he's averaged over 110 in AFL Fantasy for the better part of a decade, and he's been a 120-plus guy in GameDay Squad. He's playing all over the shop. Not only that, but I think he'll get an Ocean Mullen or Mark O'Connor tag. One of those two will go to him. I thought it was going to be Mullen last week to Anderson, but it was O'Connor. It might be Mullen this week, because I think O'Connor will play defence. Mullen plays the defensive forward role for the week on Merritt. but I think he'll get some attention. So I don't love that tab because we've seen the Geelong Tigers have kept some really, really good players to some very dirty scores. And the one that comes to mind is Zach Butters one where he went below 60 in game day squad, which we don't want any part of. Now, let's move on to the locks of the round. We always like this one, and then we'll go into our squads. But who is your lock of the round? I think I know exactly who it is, but who is it?
He's a blue. He's a forward.
Yeah.
He's a Coleman medal winning player. It is Charlie Curnow. Now, surprisingly, I had a look at some numbers, Bales. I was having a look, thought, how many times has Curnow kicked 4+ goals this season? It's only happened once. And irrespective of that, he's averaging 85 fantasy points. Look, he started the year pretty rough. He had 24, 77, and then 47. But since then, he's been turning up very consistently. He's been putting some more goals more consistently on the board. He hasn't, in his past 6 games, gone under 2. We just know this West Coast matchup. We just know how explosive key forwards can be. And he is one of the best explosive key forwards in the game. He could easily break 4 if he's got it on his day. And I could just see, look, him just having an absolute day from it. I guess, I know it's lock of the round, but Jinby, to his credit, has been doing a really good job on some key forwards and key matchups over the past couple of rounds. But I just think the class, the speed, the athleticism of Curnow is just going to be that little bit too much, where he's just so dynamic. He's so versatile where you can't just beat him in one area. You've got to beat him all over the ground. And I just don't see that happening for this superstar. So, yeah, maybe a bit of a hot call, but Bales, that's what I'm rolling with, mate.
Yeah, I don't mind it. That's for sure. My lock of the week, and part of you could say, bit of a low-hanging fruit here, Bales. Why are you going for someone that's a pretty obvious start most weeks? But I'm going to go with it anyway. Max Gawn against Dante Vicentini this week, or even if it's a Jordan Sweet, could go absolutely massive in this matchup. And he is my lock of the week. I think he could go massive. I think that Port have shown the ability that they want to stick with Vicentini. They don't necessarily want to go towards playing someone else. So I think that he's going to be up against Vicentini this week. I wonder if Port do make the switch, though, and they do bring in a Jordan Sweet because of how good Max Gawn is and to try and combat him.
It doesn't matter, though. He fights through any matchup. He's the best.
Yeah, and I agree. So that's why I think that he is going to have a massive game regardless, and that's why he's locked into my game day squad.
You want some hot news off the press?
What?
I just got a notification. I put up a trade offer before. It's been accepted. So live here, I'm going to make the call. I've just got on myself a gold Max Gawn. Now, gold is the highest tier of card you can play in Contender. I'm just going to let you know, he's straight in, Bales. I totally agree. He's going to fire this round, and I'm so happy that you've just said that. I've looked up, and a notification has come through that the trade has been accepted.
Oh, absolutely love it for sure. So, but we will go into, just before we go into our squads now, I thought we'd touch on the kid, because we obviously our squads this week. We normally show our starter squads, but I think we've got a new favorite. We got a brand new competition on Game Day Squad called Contender. So instead of me stealing the spotlight here, obviously, Tom, you are part of the Game Day Squad team. Let the listeners know how they can get involved in this new Contender series and sort of what it entails for the remainder of the season.
Absolutely. Mate, you made some really good points before about this competition is tailored to brand new coaches or coaches that have just started their journey with Game Day Squad. People who are playing in the higher competitions in Game Day Squad are actually being blocked from being able to compete in this competition. It's called Contender. Now, with this one, we've got player cards on the platform, and we've also limited the availability of player cards that can be played. But pretty much, if you work out the salary cap Bales and the maths, you can play up to six golds or 5 golds, 10 silvers or anything in between. So every other card other than those players that are either gold or silver must be bronze. It's starting as of this round, which is round 14. So honestly, if you're watching this, whether it's right now, it could be in a week's time, who knows, and you haven't signed up to Game Day Squad, it's the perfect time to get involved. If you look at the rewards, they're tailored to brand new coaches. There's a ton of packs we're giving away and we're rewarding people with common packs all the way up to 100 in this competition. So if you're brand new to the competition, please, by all means, use Bales as code, as you mentioned before. Get the bonus packs on top and get into this new comp because it's going to be a bunch of fun. And we're going to show off how we think we should build a squad or how you should build a squad heading into this contender comp, Bales. So I reckon let's get into it. Let's show them how it's done.
Put myself on mute there because I'm just taking the screenshot of my squad because I did make one change, which I wanted to get the actual squad that I'm rolling out in contender this week. So we'll chuck up Tom's squad for round 14, which is, as we said, the first round of a contender series starting. So as I do find the file on my computer there we go. And Tom's squad should be coming up in the screen in 3, 2, 1, bang. That I'll tell you what, the countdown there was, I'm just going to say, pretty incredible. But, but yeah, so Tom, you want to run us through your squad for round 14?
Yeah, so the change that has been made is George Hewitt is down to a bronze. Max Gawn has been upgraded to a gold. So other than that, squad stays the same. What I think you should be doing is you should be getting gold salary caps on players you think are going to explode, people who have plus matchups, or maybe you just want someone that has a good floor. So, for example, Nick Martin doesn't have the best matchup in the world, but his fantasy floor at the moment is so good that I think it's worth putting a gold onto him. I am trying to get my hands on a Max Holmes gold as well. And if I do that, I'm actually thinking of lowering my Connor Rozee to a bronze to get him to a gold. But that's what I think will be the winning strategy. The best part is we're actually not sure. It's the first week of competition. Maybe the best way is to get 10 silvers in it, to sort of distribute your salary cap or anything in between. But I'm just looking at key matchups, and from the back there, we've got some studs. The big out that I have is Whitfield. We touched on that before. But other than that, I feel like it's pretty vanilla. The midfield's a little different. I'm backing in Sarong, I'm backing in Merritt, and I'm backing in Tom Green, who are some players that haven't been in the best of form, but I think they're going to step up this round. Maxi Gawn and TDK. It's funny that TDK is versing West Coast, and we haven't even spoken about him yet, Bales. I feel like most of the rounds we would have touched on that. But yeah, he has one of the best matchups in all of fantasy for ruck. So I absolutely think he should be your second ruck for this round, with Gawn being your number one. Bales, as you touched on before. And in the forward line, I'm playing two players coming back off injury, and McRae and Jason Horne-Francis. But other than that, I'm backing in Daniels again. Brian Myers actually might be, other than Bailey Smith and Kennedy, the most informed forward in the competition. He is unbelievable at the moment. He's in ripper form. And then Charlie Curnow sitting on the bench there as the must-start of the round. There's the Zeus Cannons heading into the contender. This is what I think you should be rolling out with. But we're about to see Bales' squad. So, mate, without further ado, why don't you get right into it? I want to see this.
Yep, exactly. So we do have a few changes in our squad for the week. So my squad will be up here right now. So I've, as you said, I've put the salary on some players I think have got the big ceilings this week, including buying a couple of golds on the transfer market, just because it is the first week, and I don't normally love paying for players on the market. I normally not trying to trade for them, but I have done that this week. So we got Zorko, Nasaya. I have gone Whitfield in defence, along with Jack Sinclair, Nick Martin, Harry Sheasel, and Max Holmes. The player I wish I had in there was probably a Bailey Dale, but I just couldn't quite squeeze him in. I was tempted by, again, Whitfield over or Bailey Dale, but I have gone with Lockie Whitfield there, hoping that he does go back into that defensive role. Into the midfield, we've got Jordan Dawson, Marcus Bontempelli, Andrew Brayshaw, and Jai Caldwell, who I said I was pretty keen on, along with Sam Walsh. But I have put the extra salary on Connor Rozee against Melbourne. I think it's a very good matchup for him. I was tossing up where I put the salary on him or Harry Sheasel this week. If I do hear any talk about maybe some tags, it'll probably go to Sheasel instead, because I do have a bronze Rozee and a gold Sheasel that I can flip around with. But at the moment, that is where I've landed. Nice. I've gone the extra salary on the two rucks this week. So I've gone for Max Gawn there, and I've gone for Tristan Xerri, because you talked about the guys that have got the ceilings. Tristan Sherry's got his biggest ceiling as anyone going at the moment. I know Tom DeCone's got a great matchup against West Coast, and also another guy that's got another good matchup is Ron Marshall against Tim English. That's a good matchup for him, and vice versa. I think Tim English against Ron Marshall was a decent matchup. So both those rucks could go quite well. So there's a lot of rucks this week, but I think I'm trusting the two guys that have been there all year and putting the salary on them. So Tristan Cherry is someone I'm using there. And then in the forward line, I've got Matt Kennedy, Jack McRae, Brian Myers, Caleb Daniel, and Luke Jackson. And the extra salary is going on Charlie Curnow, who I did buy that gold this week. I had a silver, but I want the gold because this could be a massive game from him. And I've gone for Bailey Smith, obviously, there as the clear number one forward. I think gold Bailey Smith, as long as he plays, there's still talk about he might not play, but I think in contender, you need a gold Bailey Smith. I think that's a non-negotiable. You go buy one on the transfer market, go try and trade for one. Maybe open it, maybe use that. If it's a new user, use that code BAILSDT. Get some packs. Hope that you can pack that Bailey Smith because I think he's someone that's going to be very, very useful and almost necessary in the back part of the year to contend in contender, I think. So, yep, I like that. That is how the squad is shaping up for the round. We did just have a question here from Jack that I did want to quickly touch on was, can we look at Hugh McCluggage as a bit of a pod? So got the Giants this week. I think Bedford still does go to Lachie Neale. So do you think that he could be an option for coaches this week?
Look, I think it's a great call. Hugh McCluggage has been like sneaky good, hasn't he? Like we've seen him just explode in terms of performance. And, you know, the downfall of Dunkley has maybe been the rising of someone like Hugh McCluggage, as he touched on before. Look, in this matchup in particular, probably not, because it is going to be a little tighter. I feel like McCluggage is one of those players where when the Lions have a good matchup against a team, they should sort of steamroll. He can just get on a massive roll himself. Like he had 40 disposals just 2 rounds ago and scored 171 points. The Lions did. So, and that was against Essendon, who, you know, are a better matchup in the competition for mid. So this week, no, but I love just have him in the back of your mind for most other rounds because absolutely you should be starting someone like him.
Yeah, I agree. I like Hugh McCluggage there as a potential option. Giants this week, tougher matchup. I think there's some good matchups going around. So maybe not this week, but I think definitely for sure he's got to be in your plans moving forward. But that will wrap us up for GameDay Squad for the week. But we also do have Tom starting this week for the users that actually no, believe it's next week. Next week is when it's starting. For the Classic coaches, just heads up, Classic Cup starts. Is it next week, Tom, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, correct, mate.
Yep. So if you're on the Classic comp, you could do both Classic and Contender. You can obviously do Starter, Classic, and Contender if you're in Contender. But if you're not in Contender, you can do the other 4, including Challenger and Champion there with the restrictions. But Tom, mate, where can the people find you across the socials and any final thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I'm Tommy GDS on the X, or of course, any of the GameDay Squad socials. We're across all of your favorite socials platforms. So go find us there, drop a follow, just see all the great stuff that we are doing. We do it a little differently. Your season might be over in some of the other formats, but it is only just getting started here on GameDay Squad. So there's no better time to sign up, get started. And if you've heard of us before and wanted to give it a try, this brand new competition is the perfect place to do that exactly. So the best of luck for everyone in this round. Of course, hopefully you make the round-winning decisions. We'll see. Me and Bales have a lot more differences this round than we have in previous ones. So I'm very interested to see who comes out on top for that. But Bales, I'll throw it straight back to you, mate. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, and you can find me at BAILSDT and us at AFL Fantasy Friends across the socials. I'll be back as always for my captains in AFL Fantasy tomorrow. And then obviously we've got to watch on tomorrow night for the Doggies and St Kilda game. So that should be a good one. So if you guys want to watch the game together and see the fantasy scores tick over as well, then make sure you do head over there as well. And if you do want guaranteed answers to your AFL fantasy questions or Game Day Squad questions, if you want to hit me up there as well, then head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. I'll be recording my exclusive Patreon Q&A tonight. So make sure you sign up and get your questions in. I'll be recording tonight or early tomorrow. So yeah, if you guys would like to sign up and help support us at the channel and get bonus content, team reviews, all that good stuff, click the link in the description or head to our Patreon there. So thank you everyone for tuning in. As always, we'll be back same time, same place next week. Good luck in Game Day Squad this week. Hopefully you guys have a good week, particularly if you're playing a contender in the first week. And if you are new or haven't signed up yet, use the code BAILSDT at sign up. Head to GameDaySquad.com.au And we'll catch you guys next week for our round 15 preview. So thanks a lot. We'll catch you then. See ya.